In the late 18th century, the American colony's economy was built on trade. Most of the trade occurred between British colonies, the West Indies, and Europe. While this was very profitable for the colonies, the trip across the Atlantic presented a lot of risks. Captains often misnavigated their ships and ended up in vastly different locations than where they intended. Pirates roamed attacking any ship they saw, and if you were entering a war zone, things could get dicey. In addition, storms would pop up and sink ships or damage cargo.
One of the risks for ships was being attacked by pirates. Another risk for ships was that their cargo could be destroyed in passage. Ship captains often got their boats lost at sea and didn't arrive at the right destination. Storms could appear and destroy ships.
One of the first main hubs for developed marine insurance was Lloyd's of London. Essentially, this was a coffee shop in London owned by Edward Lloyd where policies were created and underwriters requested to finance portions of this policy. The policies looked at the vessel, the captain, the intended destination, and determined a premium for the merchant to pay. From there, individual underwriters examined the policy to see what percent of the risk they wanted to cover and received a portion of the premium similar to that amount of risk. Once the full amount was covered, the policy was closed and the ship was covered. At this time, insurance was a lot different than it is today. It was more of a gambling business than a mathematical-based business, so the risks of loss were much higher for both the merchant and the underwriters. Big problems arose with going abroad for insurance. For one, it was hard to receive claims from overseas. In order for a merchant to receive an unpaid claim, they would have to sue the underwriters who didn't pay their portion individually. With how long it took to communicate back and forth between American colonies and England, this process was nearly impossible. Another issue was that American merchants had to employ English agents most of the time. They had very little to no control over these agents and would sometimes get signed up for things they didn't really want. In addition, the agents would demand commission on their sales and they weren't usually very cheap.
The creation of domestic insurance in the United States. An explosion of marine insurance emerges in the United States with well-known underwriters. These writers had very worthy and respectable reputations due to their experience in the profession. Majority of these brokerage firms focused on making insurance widely available to the public for their vessels and other merchandise. These offices operated in the same fashion as the Lloyd's offices and made insurance easily attainable for small American shippers and provided new investment opportunities for merchants and many others similar to them. With insurance being this widely available, this opened the door to having a larger variety of goods. Ultimately, they couldn't completely keep up with the demand, so they still had to rely on the British to cover some of the overflow.